Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of PT Educator's Professors of Profit vlogcast. We've got an excellent guest on today, one that's been on the HET podcast for us several times. We appreciate everything he does, and Dr. Matt Taylor. Matt, tell us a little bit about your area of expertise and how you kind of got into being an expert witness.
Sure, Scott. Yeah, it's kind of like many things, it's one of those things you back into rather than drive forward to. So it's nice that you're giving people some heads up of possibilities to the routes to go rather than just letting dumb luck happen. So, back in the late 90s, we were in a small town, 3,500, and there was a case with an injury from a chiropractic adjustment, and the small town lawyer needed somebody to say that probably wasn't the right thing to do. And so he just came to the only PT in town, and I said, okay, I don't know what I'm doing.
The rest is history.
Yeah, and the rest is history. But what was interesting about it is it smarted because I kind of like do things right. And, we did fine with the deposition, but then when it came to the actual court process, the other guy picked me apart because he started going into detail that I hadn't prepped for. Was that on the 4th or was it on the 5th, or that, just things to destroy the jury's confidence.
Right. Lawyers
had nothing to do with the case. So, and I'm not one to let that go lightly. Dang it! so it's like, I can do better than that. And so it was another year or two, and then I got as a physical therapist and a yoga therapist, I started getting inquiries about yoga injuries and a health club owner, because I could speak to health club risk management policy, yoga itself, and then of course the dynamics of what we do as PTs. And then what I discovered in that is that it's really a fascinating process to see the machinations, how they make the sausage behind the scenes. And each case, the attorneys were great for teaching. They were, all I had to do is say what I didn't understand, and pull out of them what they wanted. And what do you need to, and who are we convincing? What do you need? So it depends on what part. So if you're initially writing a report, that's one type of presentation. If it's deposition, is going to be another. And then of course actually being on trial is you're playing to the jury. So through that process, so that's right at the turn of the century, so 20 years later, 16-0, so doing good so far.
Those are some Cy Young numbers right there. Keep that.
That's right. Well, it's a recovering valedictorian who can't feel safe if he doesn't have an A, right? But it's really been interesting. So it's usually about one a year, maybe two, and in that process, though, now I can be more selective, and when I talk to people, I better understand if it's something that I feel comfortable with.
And that's just straight repetitions and experience at that point, right?
Right, and the questions to ask, and to listen to the counsel's approach when you first speak to them.
Right. Let's dive into that a little bit then. What are some of the pros and cons with the process of becoming an expert witness? What are some things maybe professors in the healthcare field or clinicians should think about when entering into the possibility of doing an expert witness gig?
Sure. So the first challenge is being an expert, right? What is an expert besides slides and 50 miles away it used to be, right? So holding yourself out as an expert is also painting the sign on your front and your back for opposing counsel, because it's their job to destroy your credibility, because that's just how the game is played. So if you understand that, being able to line up your resume and your resume CV, but also keeping the ego out of the way, so you only take what you know. It's hard to fake it at that at that level. Okay.
Yeah, fake it,
but it's tempting. No, that's and so so I'd say that it's key to know what is your expertise, and know when it isn't your expertise.
Right. Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane, absolutely. And then through time, it's another whole set of skills. Instead of clinical reasoning, it's legal reasoning. And so they don't really care about Sampson and all 2016 study said that doesn't carry much. So it's a different way of, because you have to study and learn how each of those groups we talked about look at and make their decisions. Okay, and so that's what I think people really miss, is they think, well, I know a whole lot about back pain or whiplash or something like that. Well, that's great, but how do you say it to an attorney so they learn? How do you say it? How do you write it so that the report moves the audience it's intended? So your writing skills is another thing people need to think about. That so it's not a clinical rationale, but it's a legal rationale. And so I think those are the biggies. As far as, and the other interesting thing, of course, when you go into a deposition, then is you spend the first 10 minutes getting your identity destroyed. And that's what the opposing counsel does.
Right. So be ready for that.
Where'd you go to grade school? That was a crappy grade school. You must not know it. But they, and so if you don't know that's coming, that's really hard on your ego, and it gets you back on your heels and drops you out of your prefrontal cortex and everything. So if you understand the game, right? Yeah. Okay. This is just
it's coming.
Trash talk back and forth, and they don't let it hook you, because it's all about throwing you off the rails, right? And so and that's what I've come to enjoy, actually. Is
when you get that good, you can start giving it back a little.
Yeah, exactly. But early on, we're busy protecting our ego, and it's like, oh, well, I know all the minutia of. But again, the skill set
doesn't matter. Doesn't equate.
Minutia applied in the right formula. Yeah,
sure.
is the big thing. A health professional, and I know expert witnesses that aren't PhDs. PhD doesn't make you an expert by any means.
I can attest to that.
You got one, and you aren't much of an expert. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I got my EDD, and I don't do all that much with it yet. So.
You're educating on this. This is good. But so your credibility then comes from asking the right questions when you approach someone or are approached by someone that you show you can deliver what they need. That's where the expertise comes in. And what in my experience is, every time an attorney understands that, then we're teammates, and he or she is doing everything they can to educate me, and I'm watching their backs too. And so it's an interesting collaborative effort that's different that way too.
Yeah, definitely two worlds coming together for sure. I like that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, can you tell me, maybe give the audience one tip or trick or pointer that you've learned over the years when doing stuff involving expert witness work? What's like a golden nugget you can give them if they're just starting out?
One golden nugget. There's several, but
well, you can give as many as you want. At least one. If they're just getting started, what's something you wish you had known when you first started out to maybe land that first expert witness job, or just something to
yeah. Okay. So I guess it would be to in the initial interviews, when they first show you the case or whatever, if I had been more direct in asking for what I needed to understand. I say, okay, I understand this is the case, and this is what the plaintiff said, but what is it specifically you need me to do and not do? Because I spent a lot of time writing back and forth, and then that's frustrating and it also runs up the bill for for whoever the plaintiff or the defendant is too. So that would probably be the big thing, is to say, I'm an expert in this, but as far as doing the job for you as an expert witness, I really need to understand exactly what it is you want from me at the various stages. Yeah. And then when you've heard that a couple of times, then you can start presenting it as part of your shtick. But to
You
get
don't know
that
what you
first.
don't know early on. So yeah, that's very helpful, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Exactly.
Well, Matt, I can't thank you enough for taking your time and just, coming on to educate my audience on, what's out there in the world and what the possibilities are. Where can people reach out to you if they have further questions or follow up or just want to see what you're up to these days?
Oh, thanks, Scott. Yeah, my website, which is Matthew with 2 T's, jtaylor.com. So that'll find me. It's got all my social media handles and
Perfect.
emails and all that sort of thing. And I
Awesome.
really appreciate you getting the word out this way. And one little nugget as we go.
Yeah.
My second case that I was representing somebody on, the guy comes in, it's a yoga injury case. They drive over from Michigan to Illinois. He comes in, he's got big old rings on his hands, and he's the epitome of the personal injury attorney, right? And he goes, "Hi, I'm Mr. Wonderful," and he sticks out his hand, and I look at him and go, "I hate your name," but I just, "Oh, okay." And so the deposition was scheduled for 2 hours. At 3.5 hours, my attorney shut it down and said, "You can't get anywhere." And I said, as I left, I said, "Good spending time with you, Mr. Wonderful."
Yeah.
So
It's been wonderful.
It's been wonderful. So I mean, great academic, intellectual wrestling, and hopefully for justice.
Yeah.
Getting justice.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, for the most part, healthcare workers, but physical therapists specifically, really have good hearts and want to help people and want to do right and want to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
So I think that, being an expert witness for, like you said, fighting the good fight is really, I think it's a noble side gig. It's something cool that we can do that's outside of the 9-to-5 clinical practice work, or, whatever the norm is, if you will. So,
Right. Yeah. And do your homework on your hourly rates, because we're big wimps about money too.
yeah.
So
For sure.
if you're cheap, they don't think you're good. So
Right. And we would do it for free if we
right. Isn't that the case?
just like we would with physical therapy. We love it so much, we would give it away for free, but we
Right.
can't do that. We got to keep a roof over our heads. So,
and pay those loans. Exactly.
yep. Well, Matt, thanks again so much for your time. I love chatting with you. It's always a pleasure to have you on our podcasts and stuff. So we'll send a link in the show notes so that people can find you. But thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Scott. Thank you.